You believe that seeing the truth will make you stronger, but what if that very ability turns you into someone isolated, distrusted, and even wounded to your core? Think back to those moments when you stood in a crowded room and felt an invisible wave of tension. You heard a comment that seemed harmless but instantly sensed the sharp undertone beneath it. You saw a fleeting exchange of glances that no one else noticed. That is not an illusion. It is a form of deep perception, and Carl Jung once warned that it is a double-edged sword. Dangerous not because it's wrong, but because it's so right it changes the way you exist. In this video, I will take you into the world of those who see what others miss. You will understand why this ability has cost many their peace, but is also the key that allows them to reach heights most people never will. If you stay until the end, you'll learn how to turn this sensitivity from a burden into a mental weapon, one that can shape the entire path you walk. I will share with you real stories, cases Jung once studied, and the true cost of living in a world where you cannot pretend not to know. But before we continue, ask yourself this: are you ready to see everything, even if it means you will never go back to who you were before? Have you ever wondered why there are people who always seem to notice things the rest of the world overlooks? They catch changes in someone's eyes before anyone else does, hear the unusual silence in a conversation, and sense the falseness hiding behind a perfect smile. These are the types of people Carl Jung called individuals with differentiated perception. For them, the world is never as simple as it appears. Every detail, no matter how small, becomes a signal. This is like having a sophisticated radar always on, scanning every movement and emotion around you. It sounds like a superpower, but in reality it's far more complicated. Imagine you're at a crowded party. Music, laughter, and clinking glasses fill the room. People are enjoying themselves, but across the room, you catch a quick glance between two people that no one else notices. It lasts only seconds, but you instantly sense there's an entire story behind it. Maybe it's tension, maybe it's a secret, but certainly something no one wants to talk about. Others will forget the moment and keep enjoying the party, but you can't. You carry it in your head, replaying it, analyzing it. From that moment, you no longer experience the party the same way. People like this are often labeled as overly sensitive or overthinkers. But Jung understood this as the result of a kind of perception he called differentiated perception, the ability to read layers of information beyond the awareness of the majority. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And when you gaze long into the abyss gazes back into you." This perfectly reflects the feeling of those with this ability. The deeper you observe, the more you are affected by what you see. Not only can your emotions be dragged down, but your trust in people can erode over time. The danger is that when you see more, you also feel more. Every small lie, every reluctant gesture, every prolonged silence keeps your mind working non-stop. You can't turn it off, nor can you pretend you didn't notice. This creates an invisible gap between you and the rest of the world. You may still be in the crowd, but you feel as if you're standing outside, separated by a sheet of glass. However, if you know how to use it, this ability can become a rare advantage. You can avoid toxic relationships, early identify others' true motives, and make decisions most people only wish they could foresee. But before you can do that, you need to understand its darker side. And that's exactly what I want to share with you next. If you keep watching, you won't just understand why Jung called this ability dangerous, you'll also know how to turn it from a curse into the most powerful tool to lead your own life. What most people don't realize is that the ability to see too much not only makes you different, it also comes with a very high price. When you notice what others can't, you also see contradictions, deceit, and shadows that most people choose to ignore. The first price is loneliness, not because you want to separate yourself from others, but because you no longer feel safe in relationships that seem fine on the surface. You know too much, and that widens the gap between you and them. Think about a close friend. You're having a pleasant conversation when suddenly you notice their voice tightening slightly, their eyes avoiding yours when a certain topic comes up. Others might ignore it, but you can't. You remember it, analyze it, and begin to question. Are they hiding something? Are they being honest? Once you've asked yourself that question, you can't go back to the trust you once had. Over time, this builds an invisible wall. You can't fully relax in relationships because a part of your mind is always scanning, watching, on guard. Carl Jung warned that those with heightened perception often fall into emotional exhaustion. They process too much psychological data at once. It's like standing in front of hundreds of security monitors, each showing a story, an emotion, a conflict. At first you think you can handle it all, but over time the pressure wears you down. Friedrich Nietzsche called this the fatigue of the one who sees through. When the mind is flooded with truths, the heart may not be ready to accept. Another example is in the workplace. You know who is truly working and who is only performing for the boss. You sense the tension between colleagues they try to hide. You spot unfair decisions before they're made public. While everyone else cheerfully attends meetings, you sit there uncomfortable because you've already seen the bigger picture. Gradually, you share less, participate less because you don't want to be drawn into the social games whose nature you've already seen through. The next cost is being misunderstood. When you speak about what you notice, the reaction is rarely gratitude, it's defense. People may think you're paranoid or trying to stir trouble. Some will avoid you because they fear being seen through. This pushes you further into isolation. Sartre once said, "Hell is other people, and for those with this ability that is not just philosophy, it's daily experience." But don't lose hope, because in the next part, I'll show you that even when the price is high, this ability can still become your greatest advantage if you know how to use it. In the next section, you'll discover how to turn this sensitivity from a burden into a strength, so you can not only survive but lead the game on your own terms. If you keep watching, you'll learn the method Jung called the art of shadow integration, turning everything you see into a tool to propel you further than anyone else. There's a paradox few talk about. An ability once seen as a burden can become your ticket to going further than anyone else if you know how to use it. The difference lies in whether you let it control you or you control it. Carl Jung called this the process of shadow integration, a state where you no longer fear what you perceive. You learn to accept both the light and the dark in human nature, including the uncomfortable truths you see every day. Once you reach this state, you stop reacting impulsively and start choosing the timing and method of your actions for maximum impact. Imagine being in a meeting where everyone is polite, but you sense underlying tension between two members. The average person will ignore it and move on, but you know if left unchecked, it will derail the entire project. Instead of pointing it out and creating confrontation, you subtly steer the conversation, ask open-ended questions, and gradually ease the tension. You don't just prevent the situation from worsening, you strengthen trust in your leadership. This is the power of controlling what you see, rather than being controlled by it. Viktor Frankl once said that man can endure any suffering if he finds meaning in it. This applies to deep perception as well. When you link it to a greater goal, protecting yourself from toxic relationships, advancing your career, or simply understanding people better, it stops being a burden. It becomes a tool that keeps you steady and moving forward. Machiavelli also advised that a wise leader never reveals everything they know, because true power comes from knowing more than you show and revealing only when necessary. For example, in personal relationships, you might sense someone lying or hiding emotions. Instead of confronting them and creating conflict, you choose to observe and listen, allowing them to open up on their own. This keeps you in control while creating an opportunity for positive change without deepening the rift. Once you learn to harness this ability, everything changes. You enter any room, calm, confident that you hold the advantage. You don't need to show all that you know, but you are always ready to use it when the moment is right. That is what sets you apart. But this is still just the surface. In the next part, you'll see how the most perceptive people in history use this ability not just to protect themselves, but to create a lasting positive impact on the world around them. If you keep watching, you'll discover the strategies to turn this subtlety into a tool that can change the entire game, something the majority will never achieve. The true power of perception doesn't lie in what you notice, it lies in how you turn it into a positive influence on the world around you. Many who have this ability live in a defensive state, always trying to protect themselves from harm. But when you shift from defense to offense, from observer to leader, everything changes. Jung once said that the goal of psychological development is not to eliminate the dark, but to learn to use it to illuminate your own path and that of others. When you understand that not everything you see must be voiced immediately, you start choosing the moments that create the greatest impact. Imagine working on a team project and noticing one member disengaging slowly, withdrawing from their tasks. Others might not notice or assume it's just personal issues, but you can see clearly how this will affect the outcome. Instead of exposing the problem in front of everyone, you approach them privately, talk and find out the real cause. Just one sincere conversation could reignite their motivation and save the project from failure. This is a clear example of using observation to build rather than break. Throughout history, many great leaders have used this subtlety to shift situations in their favor for the benefit of their communities or organizations. Machiavelli emphasized that a wise leader doesn't rely solely on visible power, but also on invisible power, the ability to understand others' psychology and quietly direct it. When you control the information you hold, you build both trust and authority, something the majority cannot maintain for long. This ability is equally powerful in personal life. In a relationship, when you notice your partner is under pressure or insecure, you don't immediately point it out. Instead, you create space for them to open up. This not only addresses the issue on a deeper level, but also strengthens your bond. That patience is what makes you the person others turn to when they need genuine understanding. When you learn to use perception to build, you're no longer just an observer or analyst. You become a catalyst for change. You don't need to control everything, but you can guide the direction without anyone realizing it. That is silent but enduring power, the kind of power the most perceptive people in history have always held. And more importantly, you not only protect yourself from harm, but also create a ripple of positive influence. In the final part, I'll help you connect everything you've learned to turn this ability into a complete and powerful life strategy. If you keep watching, you'll see how just one small shift in mindset can make you the best version of yourself, unshakable by the world, yet able to move the world. The ultimate destination of this journey is not about how much you see or how deeply you analyze, but how you live with this ability while keeping your balance and inner peace. Having heightened perception is like holding a sharp sword. It can protect you, but it can also harm you if you don't know how to use it. Jung once said that true maturity comes when you accept your own limits, because no one can bear all the truths of the world without being hurt. Learning to set boundaries for your own ability is a crucial step to making it an ally rather than an enemy. Imagine sitting at a family dinner. You notice tense glances between two relatives, understand the conflict behind them, but this time you don't let it dictate your experience. You choose to focus on a fun story with others, still noting the information, but not letting it ruin the moment. This is when you start to control the level of influence your perception has. You no longer react out of habit, nor let every signal pull your mind away. Another example is in work. You notice injustices or plans likely to fail, but instead of rushing to fix everything, you choose your battles. You know when to speak up and when to wait for the right moment. This not only saves your energy, but also gives your actions greater weight and precision. This is a skill those who cannot master their ability will never achieve. What's remarkable is that when you keep this balance, you also start enjoying your ability in a lighter way. You no longer see it as a burden to bear, but as a sophisticated tool to guide your life. Like a skilled musician, you know when to play strong notes and when to let silence resonate. This subtlety makes you different without making you distant. And here is the greatest reward for staying until now. You have not only understood why the ability to see can be dangerous, but also learned how to turn it into a lasting advantage. You can walk into any space confident that you will see more than others, yet calm enough to decide what to do with what you see. This is the balance Jung, Nietzsche, and Frankl all aimed for, the meeting point between wisdom and peace. If you want to go further, keep watching the next video where I'll share how to use this ability not just to protect yourself, but to build a life full of meaning and lasting influence. Because once you master this gift, you won't just change how you see the world, you'll change how the world sees you.